Welcome to the Talkin VAWLS Network. My name is Boogie Bentley. I told you guys business was going to pick up in March, and here we go. One of the top players in the country, David Sanders, five-star offensive tackle, actually listed as the #1 offensive tackle in the country, has dropped his top 6. Tennessee firmly in the mix there. You can take a look on the screen. He dropped it just a few moments ago. Clemson, Georgia, Ohio State, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Alabama are in the mix. Now, Tennessee is in it deep here with some of these elite offensive tackles in the country. Reminds me of a couple of years ago when you had Lucas Simmons, you had Francis Mauigoa, you had Stanton Ramel, and then you also had Shamrod Umrov. Tennessee was only able to land one of those offensive tackles. I think Tennessee has a really, really good shot at landing 2 big-time prospects on the outside to take care of Nico and then to take care of George McIntyre. Some of those being, first and foremost, David Sanders, 5-star offensive tackle. Jalen Matthews, 4-star offensive tackle out of New Jersey. We've talked about Josh Petty, the 4-star offensive tackle out of Georgia, one of the top offensive tackles in the class. Also 4-star offensive tackle Juan Gasson. But for me, I think it comes down to David Sanders. He's priority #1. You got your quarterback in the boat. You got 5-star quarterback George McIntyre committed to Tennessee. I think if you go get David Sanders, you go get one of the best players in the country, you get him locked in at Tennessee, I think Josh Heupel has a legitimate shot at a top 5 class in the class of 2025. Again, the list is out. He put it out that he wanted to cut down the list prior to the spring. He said this month in particular is going to be very serious for me and my family to cut the list down. Said trying to deal with everybody just isn't the healthiest way to go, and with me getting closer to my decision, I want to have a very strong decision and take advantage of the opportunity to take visits to these schools like spring practices, official visits, and games, and I don't want to be somewhere every single weekend, so that's big for me. Again, David Sanders, top 6, Clemson, Georgia, Ohio State, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Alabama. Everything I've seen sounds like Clemson and Tennessee right up here at the top with Georgia on their heels. But look, we're early in the process, right? He's narrowing down this list, going to take visits throughout the spring, going to take official visits in the summer, maybe into the fall, probably going to go all the way down to signing day if I was guessing. Now, if you've not been on this channel, you don't know who David Sanders is, what he's about, you can take a look at the profile on the screen. Again, a 5-star offensive tackle, #1 offensive tackle in the country across the board outside of On3. On3 has him at #2. But you could see there, #2 overall player in the country according to the On3 industry ranking, and #1 offensive tackle. They do have an updated scouting report over there at On3 after his junior season. That's when all the upgrades came in. Says offensive tackle David Sanders has long been considered one of the cycle's top prospects, and with good reason. At 6'5.5", 255 pounds, he's a twitched-up athlete who has been a dominant two-way player for Charlotte, North Carolina, Providence Day for several seasons. Sanders' elite athleticism shows up both as a run blocker and in pass protection. He's physical, tough drive blocker who consistently gets a push in the run game. Also held up very well in pass protection while facing some talented pass rushers last fall. Goes on to say Sanders will need to continue adding weight to his frame, but has notable upside given his athleticism and play strength. Now, myself, Coach Jay, did a film breakdown on David Sanders a little bit earlier last month. You can go back and give that a watch, and that was one of the questions I asked Coach Jay. I said, are you concerned about his weight? And he's not. He talked about the athleticism. He talked about the frame, right? He's got the size to be able to add weight throughout his senior year, going into a freshman at the University of Tennessee, if that's where he just so happens to end up. So, yeah, he does need to add some weight, but he's got plenty of time to do that. You go back to February the 26th, an update from Chad Simmons on David Sanders says the elite offensive tackle out of Providence Day visited Clemson in January and is locked in an official visit to Death Valley from May 31st through June 2nd. He's expected back at Clemson for a spring practice. Georgia and Tennessee should host Sanders for a spring practice as well, and it would be surprising if the Bulldogs and Vols didn't receive an official visit. So again, those are probably your top 3 when you listen to some of these insiders as far as who is really leading for David Sanders. But Chad Simmons goes on to say Ohio State is another school that seems to be high on his list. Alabama, Michigan, and North Carolina are others in the mix. Each visit in the spring and summer will be important because Sanders plans to make a decision before his senior year begins. So that's interesting to me. That's Chad Simmons back on the 26th. But again, you go back to what David Sanders says. If he's going to take some visits during the season, does that kind of throw a wrinkle into that time frame for the 5-star offensive tackle? But Tennessee very deep in this one. The Vols make the cut. Now, somebody else I want to talk about, and that's an in-state prospect, one of your priority prospects from the state of Tennessee in the class of 25, and that is Ethan Utley. He is a 4-star defensive lineman. It's top 200 prospect, top 5 prospect in the state of Tennessee. He put out this announcement on Twitter yesterday. Let's take a listen. Out of Nashville, Tennessee, Ethan Utley had over 40 offers. He plans to make a decision prior to those official visits this summer.
I have Ethan Utley, and I'm committed to.
I recognize that voice. Ethan Utley going to be making a decision on March the 28th. I think that's an interesting timeline. I've made some videos on Ethan Utley earlier, and we'll get into that. We'll get into that timeline. But you can see there the profile on the screen. 4-star defensive lineman, 6'3.5", 275 out of Nashville, Tennessee. Talk about locking down the state. This is a priority target in the state of Tennessee. We also did a film breakdown on Ethan Utley. So go back to the playlist. You go to the YouTube channel, you click on playlist, look at the film breakdown series. You can take a look at both of these guys we're talking about today, David Sanders and also Ethan Utley. He dropped his top 5 back on Christmas Day. He listed Michigan, Oklahoma, Syracuse, Tennessee, and Texas. This is about the time frame. He says, I'm going to announce my commitment on my birthday. He said, I will turn 17 on March the 28th. I'll commit to one of my top 5 schools. This was something I've been thinking about since February. Then after I cut my list of 5 schools, it has been on my mind. Says the schools on my list give me the home feeling. I have been talking to my mom about it, and I feel like the timing is right. Now, as far as Tennessee, they're deep in this thing. You got to think Tennessee's in a very good spot here with the in-state talent. So he was in town back for Junior Day in February. Obviously, the January Junior Day, easy for me to say, got canceled due to the weather, but Ethan Utley was in town in February. But he's been to Tennessee multiple times prior to that. But after this past Junior Day in February, he was asked about Tennessee and where they're at. He says they're still up there. They've been around for a while in my recruitment process. They offered me before December of my freshman year. So having that relationship for going on 3 years now and being able to take official visits, just knowing I will be able to connect with them then on top of being here now. He says it's just one of those things when it comes down to it. I can't count Tennessee out. Now, when he was asked, where are you at in this decision-making process? You've dropped your top 5. You've got your commitment date set. Said in his mind he still doesn't have a decision made. He wants to sit down and talk it over with his mom. But he did say the culture is going to play a big part in this decision. He said starting with the head coach, all the way down to the assistants, all the way down to the analysts. He said the school that he chooses, he wants it to feel like a big family environment. And we talk about the culture at Tennessee. That's been something that's been a narrative, been a theme since Josh Heupel took over. I think he's created that culture. And when Ethan Utley says, I want it to feel like a big family, I think that is advantage Tennessee. But that's a couple of guys, couple of big-time prospects. If you're looking to lock down a top 5 class, I think it starts with David Sanders. You've got George in the boat. Got Jack Van Dorselaer in the boat, 4-star tight end. You go get David Sanders. You go get Ethan Utley. You continue to build on this recruiting class. I think they have a legitimate shot at a top 5 class. But I want to know what you guys think. Do they have a legitimate shot? Who are your priorities in this class of 25 for Josh Heupel to be able to get this thing to a top 5 class? Put those in the comment section. I want to see what you guys think. As always, do me a favor, smash that thumbs up on the way out the door. We would greatly appreciate it. Also, go check out the merchandise. You can go to bonfire.com/store/Talkin VAWLS. The link is also in the description below this video. We appreciate any and all support. If you want to give a little bit more, you can hit that join button down below. You can become a member of the channel for just $1 a month. That's it. You get custom Talkin VAWLS emojis, access to fan call-in shows, all kinds of fun perks and benefits. Look, spring camp is right around the corner. The Sunday night before spring camp kicks off, we're going to do a fan call-in show right here on the Talkin VAWLS Network. We're going to try to do them every week throughout spring camp. Get you guys on so we can talk about it. We'll do a show on Wednesday nights. Tons of coverage coming your way. Recruiting's picking up, so make sure you guys get in where you fit in. But that is going to do it for this one. This is the Talkin VAWLS Network. My name is Boogie Bentley. Go Big Orange.